This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. K-State's Raj Kholsa and Suprem begin the show today as they explain how the collaboration between themselves and others is contributing to the development of Nano Sensors for farmers. Ernie Minton, Dean of K-State's College of Agriculture and Director of K-State Research and Extension, continues today's show with a review of work that has been taking place with K-State researchers and what changes are coming for the Dean. Ending today's show is Shawnee County Horticulture Agent Lane Wiens as he discusses the benefits of hydroponics and crops that can grow well without soil. That and more is coming up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Thursday show talking about a recent award with Department Head of Agronomy at K-State, Raj Kholsa, and Associate Professor in K-State's Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Systems Engineering, Suprem Das. Raj, Suprem, thank you both so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
Suprem, what is this award?
This award is based on the National Science Foundation's something called a Global Center to solve some of the global challenges, and that's where my vision of working with Raj and a highly interdisciplinary team here in K-State to develop a bunch of sensors that are really in a pressing need to solve some of the problems in agriculture. So this is called NSF Global Center Award.
And this is a $2 million award. And why did you choose to go through this application?
Well, this is, again, based on our interdisciplinary idea exchanges in the campus. Now, I'm very fortunate to have my colleagues, Raj, and as I mentioned, and the other faculties. So where we think about a system-level approach, we think about, again, system-level and global level. So as we know, Raj always talks about the crop productivity. That's what they care about at the end of the day, where we think from the very different approach, like can we understand these type of materials by using which we can develop sensors that Raj care about for agriculture again. And that's the common interest. We come from very different background, but at the end of the day, our goal is the same.
And when it comes to nanoscale sensors, when we think about agriculture, Raj, what's the dream of how they would be integrated into an agricultural operation?
Well, thank you, Shelby. So if you look at how agriculture has changed in the last 30 years or so, agriculture has embraced so many new innovations and technologies that have come down the pipeline. However, when you talk to our farmers, they always struggle with taking full advantage of these technologies. Part of the reason is that we can only manage what we can measure. Our ability to actuate these technologies to their fullest is limited by our capacity to measure. And that's a key question that my lab and I have been pursuing for the last decade or so. Can we go out and take not just one measurement in a crop field or on a farm, that how much water we should be applying on our crops, but we can do it in very high density, that I don't have to do any guesswork, how much water is needed, where, and when. And so with that question in our mind, we're looking for solutions that are providing rapid measurement, reliable measurement, inexpensive measurement, so that we go out and measure, if not in every square inch, but in very high spatial density out in the field. And not just take one measurement in a day or one measurement in a week, but rather can have multiple measurements both in space as well as in time. And so I recall I was having this conversation with Dr. Das here, and he said, I'm doing something similar in my lab. Maybe we can help you. And that's where the idea came together that, hey, could we work in a team format where this is what agriculture is looking for, to take full advantage of precision agricultural technologies, and maybe we can team up with engineering, where he comes from, to create solutions that are meaningful for the farmers and farming communities.
What are those things that you're working on, Suprem, that will hopefully take all these measurements?
Yeah, so when a lot of my inspirations in this direction comes from colleagues like Raj, because they know in the real field what are the problems. But also, during my discussion with him, I kind of try to know a little bit about how, for example, he measures things in the field. For example, let's say, nitrate, which is critically important for plants. Now, I used to ask Raj, do you measure nitrate directly, or you measure something else, So, and that's where my interest came into the picture, that when I knew that Raj is, correlating some of the soil parameters, to basically extract the knowledge of, how much nitrate is plant is uptaking. But really, when I asked, are you really measuring nitrate, that's where we had some ambiguity, and he used to tell me that I cannot rely any sensor that directly measures nitrate. And that's where it's my interest, to ask myself, can we make something that will directly measure nitrate? And that will be a game changer, because if we will be able to not only measure the nitrate, but also look at this spatio-temporal dynamics, that what he is talking about, that will be a complete game changer. And that was the beginning of conceptualizing this grant. And we are fortunate enough, we have also support from K-State to look at not only this, but also how these fertilizers, for example, when farmers, they apply to the field, what happens to the fertilizers, how it breaks down, what are the chemical components it breaks down, what's the mechanism of breaking down the fertilizers, so that at some point you have this much of nitrate that is available for the plants. So we have also team members who are looking at the microbial activity in the soils, things like that. So it's a really, truly interdisciplinary approach, but again, motivated by the type of questions that Raj just asked about.
An important note to make of just how small this equipment could be or will be when it comes to measuring.
These are called Nano Sensors. Actually, these are sensors made by nanoscale materials, or made out of nanoscale materials. And in my lab, we play very actively on making these materials. We make sure that these materials really, really nanoscale. A nano is 1 billionth of a meter. It's so tiny you cannot see anything. But we do a lot of characterizations to make sure that this is nanoscale materials. But what we, at the end of the day, do is that to take these materials and make, millimeter by millimeter, those type of sensors, where we actively monitor how the nitrate is getting sensed by these materials. And that's the fundamental approach of developing these nitrate sensors, for example.
So Shelby, to give you a current status of a farmer or a practitioner want to measure nitrate in soil today, they would basically have to go out to the field, take a soil sample at multiple depths, dry the soil sample, sieve it so that the particles are small enough, package it, bring it to our soils testing laboratory, drop off the sample, ask the lab to run the analysis, and expect the results to be sent back to the farmer or the practitioner in a week time. We're talking about totally changing that process, where these sensors are embedded in the field. They have the ability to be communicated through computer technology, if I may, and they can provide the measurement synchronously at any time during the day or night. And not just one measurement or two measurement, dozens or hundreds of measurements from the field. And so it's a leapfrog concept, and it's a leapfrog technology. I'm very excited that, we have colleagues from College of Engineering and College of Agriculture, Department of Agronomy, Industrial Engineering, all coming together to address this common challenge. Let us go out and measure what's important for agriculture to make a difference.
When could this possibly be something that farmers see?
Well, that's a question that exactly the answer I do not have, but certainly in this 3 years project, we would like to develop prototype sensors that can be deployed certainly in the greenhouse facilities, and then the next test would be in our experimental field here at K-State.
So I want to make sure that we don't want to sound like that this is a done deal. This is a very complex process. What works in the laboratory in standard condition may not work in greenhouse. And greenhouse has a lot of control conditions as well. But by the time you take it to the field where you have different types of soil, different organic matter, microbial communities, it gets very complex. So I am ready as soon as they can provide these sensors to us, but I understand it'll take a few years.
Raj, Suprem, I appreciate you both taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That was Department Head of Agronomy at K-State, Raj Kholsa, and he was joined by Associate Professor in K-State's Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Systems Engineering, Suprem Das, as they were discussing their recent award of $2 million to look into Nano Sensors. We're cutting to a short break now on Agriculture Today, but we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show talking about the recent statewide e-newsletter with Dean of K-State's College of Agriculture and Director of K-State Research and Extension, Ernie Minton. Ernie, thanks for joining us today.
Shelby, looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for having me.
Ernie, wanting to talk through a few of those different points you made in your recent statewide e-newsletter. And the first one being on a topic of the Climate Resilient Sustainable Intensification Lab. And what is that lab with a lot of words?
Yeah, that's a mouthful, isn't it? No, this is a big deal. And, I say that, and yet for over the past decade, we've had a great deal of success here at K-State with the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID as we call it. But this one in particular, as you note, climate resilient sustainable intensification, has to do with adoption of crops and practices and so forth to changing environments and climate and those kinds of things. And no one better to lead that than Dr. Var Prasad. He's got over a decade of experience with the previous lab that he ran. He has a tremendous reputation with USAID, and so they had a great level of comfort when the project was reviewed. I don't think Vara told me there were any edits to the proposal, which says a lot. And so they're organizing, and I mean things are ongoing already. But this is a very important and quite sizable grant for K-State. So over the next 5 years, the potential for $50 million in funding.
And who is this lab hoping to benefit?
Well, so the direct beneficiaries would be the countries in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central America that are directly involved in, there are institutions there that we have collaborations with that will be providing funding for various research projects. There's also opportunities for mission buy-ins in those countries as well. But that's just the first layer of benefit. So the most common question I get about our work with international programs like this one is, what's the benefit to Kansas? And it can be a complex answer, but if you look back at things that have happened in the past, we developed these collaborations, and as a result of that, for example, we acquire new germplasm that imparts a resistance to pests and those kinds of things. But in addition to that, as we get ourselves involved in research and capacity building, we create the opportunity for new trading partners, certainly for the exchange of scientists and students, but also it makes sure that K-State is at the forefront of helping to ensure global food security. And we've equated global food security with national security. And so as the Bob Marley song goes, a hungry mob is an angry mob, and that really is true. And so if countries are food secure, they're less likely to be disruptions in the peace and stability of those countries.
And there is other work that K-State researchers are doing, and this one focused towards greenhouse gases.
That's right. One of our well-known agronomy faculty, Dr. Chuck Rice, is part of a large contingency of scientists who put together a report on how U.S. agriculture has the potential to become actually carbon negative. And so carbon equivalents are sort of the standard marker for greenhouse gases, even though other greenhouse gases are involved in the consideration for the global climate. But it's very encouraging that while agriculture often was seen as a positive contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, other things that we do from a management perspective help to mitigate those emissions, and they're noted in this particular article. Have to do with both crop and livestock production, management of nitrogen fertilizer, and other kinds of things. So it's great for K-State to be part of the leadership on that effort as well.
The last part of your e-newsletter, looking at pest infestations and beginning with emerald ash borer.
Yeah, this is a great example of the collaboration that exists between the Kansas Forest Service, the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and K-State Extension. And so the report came out of the Kansas Forest Service, which is obviously a service agency. Many folks maybe don't necessarily associate it with Kansas State University, but it's a part of K-State Extension. And so one of the things they do is monitor the health of the forest lands. And so this emerald ash borer is a problem. It's been identified now, I think, in 15 Kansas counties. They just have spotted 2 this year and added 1, Nemaha, I believe it is, in this article. So it's unfortunate, but the good thing is our system and our collaboration between those state agencies and K-State Extension really working in a very positive way here.
And something else we've unfortunately seen in Kansas, corn leafhoppers.
Yeah, corn leafhopper. That one I had to learn about this past summer at some field days as well. So the corn leafhopper is part of the transition or transmission of the pest that results in corn stunt. Again, another one that I wasn't particularly familiar with, but this article does a good job of highlighting, again, how multidisciplinary collaboration that happens across departments, in this case, entomology and plant pathology, really is so very important. The other thing I'd point out as well is that the entomologist, Anthony Zukoff, is actually out at Garden City. The plant pathologist, Rodrigo Onofre, is here in Manhattan, again attesting to the importance of our statewide and regional research extension units in terms of helping Kansas producers regardless of where they are geographically in the state.
Ernie, there's also one more pest you included in this month's statewide e-newsletter.
Yeah, so pests in stored grain, they're highlighted in, I think, the final article in this particular statewide. This is a collaboration between Dr. Tom Phillips, who's a member of our Department of Entomology and is well-known stored products insect entomologist, stored product entomologist. is collaborating with our ARS unit on College Avenue and their stored grain unit to look at a couple of pests, caper beetle and the larger grain borer, which pose a real threat to stored grains and have implications obviously for the grain trade. So good that they're on top of this on the front end, and this is some work funded by USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture.
And Ernie, as we're in December and wrapping up the year of 2024, can you give us a quick synopsis of how K-State Research and Extension and the College of Agriculture looked this year?
Yeah, absolutely. This is another big year. I've said it before, I think, on the program that many of us who are faculty and now maybe administrators at K-State were drawn to this profession because of this annual thing that's admission and then graduation. And so we're getting ready for finals are just about on us and graduation, immediately after that. And so that's, again, K-State's role for educating the next workforce, sending them out to be productive citizens and so forth. So there's that aspect of our academic mission. Anybody that's been on campus and been by Colin Weber Hall know of the work that's happening here on campus. So we're very excited about the continuing progress of the Ag Innovation Initiative. That's moving along quite well. And then at the end of this coming fiscal year, so that'd be June 30, 2025, I'll be stepping away as dean. The campus won't be getting rid of me, however. I'm going to continue to provide some fundraising support to help close the funding gap for the Ag Innovation Initiative. But we're have set up, I think, the college to be very, very attractive for the next dean, the next leadership. So we're really excited about that. This is a search that's led out of the provost office, and there'll be more information on that coming. But broadly speaking, the goal is to have a new permanent dean in place on July 1 of 2025.
Ernie, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Well, I'm happy to join you, and thank you for having me.
That was Dean of Kansas State University's College of Agriculture and Director of K-State Research and Extension, Ernie Minton. In today's show notes on acttoday.net, I will put a link where you can find his most recent statewide e-newsletter, and there will also be a link where you can sign up if you'd like to receive these monthly e-newsletters. We're cutting to a short break now on Agriculture Today, but we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Agriculture Today. Along with Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. If you'd like to continue growing fruits and vegetables year-round, home hydroponics might be the answer. For this month's K-State Garden Hour, Lane Wiens, Shawnee County horticulture agent, covered the basics of hydroponics, types of hydroponic systems, crops that grow well without soil, and tips on building your own system at home. He says that hydroponics is a method of growing plants without soil.
Soil always provides the nutrients and the structure that plants need to grow, but in hydroponics, we don't have that. So everything related to the plant growing, the nutrients, the structure, everything that soil would be doing is something that we have to provide ourselves. Hydroponics today was developed in the late 30s from plant nutrition studies. So scientists were looking at what nutrients were necessary for plant growth and what amount they needed and when during their growth cycle, the plants needed those nutrients, and that sort of morphed into growing plants without soil. As of 2019, a study from the National Ag Statistics Service, the U.S. grew 210,000 tons of produce hydroponically, which is valued at more than $700 million. California, Texas, Colorado, Tennessee are kind of our heavy hitters. Kansas, we did grow a bit, though, 58,500 tons as of that study, which, if you think about how focused Kansas is on row crop production, the fact that we grew that much is crazy. So what are some of the benefits of hydroponics? Well, first up, the plants actually grow faster with hydroponics. So because all of the nutrients and things that they need for growth are right there, they can grow and take up those nutrients more efficiently. We lower water use through using hydroponics up to 90% in some cases, depending on the type of system that you're using. And as water becomes a more and more hot button issue, hydroponics is the way to get around that. We're able to grow crops more densely. So because unlike soil, we can't really go vertical with it. But with hydroponics, we are able to grow on some A-frame type structures, which are a lot more space use efficient, and we're able to grow more crops in the same square footage. We're able to grow crops regardless of weather. So it's a fantastic way to garden all year long. And lastly, no weeding. No soil means there's no weed seeds or anything like that, so you don't have to weed your hydroponic garden. So what can we grow hydroponically? I think the two that most people think of when they think hydroponics are herbs and leafy greens. So basil, dill, chives, mint, oregano, lettuce, spinach, kale, pak choi, bok choy, cabbage. All of those grow really well in hydroponic systems. We also have fruiting crops like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and squash that grow really well hydroponically. And actually, tomatoes, looking back at that study from the National Ag Stats Service, tomatoes made up about 60% of the hydroponic produce grown by pound. It was, again, 60%. Strawberries grow fantastic in hydroponic systems. And root crops, interestingly, can grow well in hydroponic systems. Here in the States, it's not really used too much. Most of our potatoes are still field grown. But there is research being done in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia where there isn't a lot of arable land where they can produce these really calorically dense foods. And there's lots of cities, so they're looking at using different medias and figuring out what varieties work and what nutrient solution they need to use. And finally, at K-State, we always stress right plant when we're out in the landscape. This is kind of the same concept. So different systems fit different crops better. So a system that can grow dill really well isn't necessarily going to be an ideal for growing tomatoes. So it's important to match your system to your crops and vice versa. And some final thoughts here. Start clean and grow clean. Maintain that cleanliness as you grow your crop. Match your crop to the system that you're growing with, and keep an eye on your plants as they grow. They're going to need maintenance. You might have to modify your pH a bit, and you need to make sure that your nutrient solution tank is sitting at the right height. And most importantly, have fun with it. Hydroponics is a great way to garden regardless of the weather.
That's Lane Wiens, Shawnee County horticulture agent, with information on home hydroponics. To watch the entire webinar, search for K-State Garden Hour, then click on View the Recent Webinar. And that'll do it for this edition of Agriculture Today. For Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. This is the K-State Radio Network.